your ruler.
Sold.
Your lands, your possessions, your very lives will gladly be given in tribute to me.
What's up, guys? So this video we're gonna do a breakdown of Smallville. Okay, so we're gonna watch a video talking about Smallville, and then we're gonna also go from there and talk about Smallville. Smallville is probably still like one of my favorite show. Well, it was the favorite show of mine growing up. Like my favorite. It was at the time. It was my favorite show. Now I've had a bunch of favorite shows since then, but growing up, Smallville was the favorite show. That was everything. While the show was on, until the show went off the air, when it finally ended, on its 10th season. That was all I cared. That was all I cared about watching. Like, oh, the next week is the next episode of Smallville. Oh, the next episode for 10 years straight. There's Smallville. I love the shit out of Smallville. But anyways, and the thing about okay, so it also holds sentimental value to me because even when I couldn't be home and watch Smallville, my dad would set it to record for me to make sure I didn't miss it. At the beginning he used to watch it with me, but then he lost interest like a couple seasons in because he just doesn't care. Because you can't blame him. I mean your parents, they're like, okay, it's Superman. Superman's been around the last 100 years. I don't care. I'm very familiar, right? So he just lost interest, but he still respected the fact that I liked it. But he also said something. You never give your parents credit for how smart they are until they're long gone. At the time, you're just like, you're stupid. But at the time, he said something like, it's basically, and then he said this a long time ago. He said this in the 2000s. I don't know why you like it so much. It's basically just a soap opera with superpowers. And it is. I got so offended when he said that. I said, how dare you say that? It's not a soap opera. It's not a soap opera. How dare you? What it basically is. Yeah, so I'm trying to think before we jump into it. Oh, well, I was gonna say something. I don't remember, but it still remains to this day one of my top favorite shows. There's so many other good shows that have become my favorites, or some of my favorites since then. But Smallville is probably, out of all the shows in existence, the one that I've rewatched the most times. I've rewatched some other shows 2 to 3 times through the entire series, but Smallville is the only one I can honestly say I probably rewatched the entire series from start to finish at least 5 or more times. But anyways, let's jump into it.
Hey all, implicitly Zoomer here. The most important things happen 3 times in life. In primary school...
And already I got a comment right there. That quote right there. That was a quote that Lex said to Clark. And it always hit home. It always hit home to me so hard because they were both jealous of each other. They were both jealous of each other in 2 different ways. And it reminds me a lot it reminds me a lot of my cousin, and I can tell I'm jealous of him of a lot of things when he's jealous of me for some things. but Clark was jealous of Lex because of how good it seemed that he had it, like how rich he was, or whatever. And Lex was jealous of Clark for his nuclear family. They both wanted what each other had.
And I very rarely watch it because I thought it was way too scary and sexy, although nowadays I do scratch my head over the former. But in contrast, as a teenager, I watched it religiously from season 7 onwards, and now as an adult, I watched it again, and despite all of its flaws and wonkier stuff, I absolutely adored it. It's not Shakespeare by any means, but it's got some of my favourite live-action versions of these characters: Jonathan, Lex, and Lois.
Dad,
Yeah,
thanks for always believing in me.
you're welcome, sir.
It's also got some of my favourite Superman moments ever, and every time I see my complete DVD collection, I feel something in my pants.
What? Rich boy versus farm boy.
Smallville is 10 seasons, organised by season-long arcs, which are often MacGuffin-focused. And before you ask, yes, it does get very repetitive. Furthermore, there's also a duality to this show, because it's an early 2000s program that's on a precipice of great change. On one hand, it's very episodic, to the extent that it can be pretty maddening to watch.
You also have to give Smallville its credit, because it was the first show ever on the air to bring movie quality special effects to a television show. It also, I believe, had the most expensive pilot for a show ever in making the pilot. I think John Snyder said that. John Snyder from Dukes of Hazzard. He said that on a podcast somewhere. I don't remember which podcast, but he said the Smallville pilot was the most expensive pilot ever at the time.
Dies. He's deeply heartbroken and traumatized. Then the next episode he's fine and he's more interested about f***ing football. But on the other hand, Smallville is also very ambitious with its character work that's very carefully built over the course of years, like a great novel about two boys becoming men. A kid from a family that fosters community and responsibility, and the other raised with a belief in competition and selfishness. But both don't know their futures. However, the fact that we know that they're destined to become larger-than-life mythical symbols, it only makes their ignorance all the more poignant. In season 1, it opens with a child being told to withhold his emotions by his resentful father, and another child is adopted by a couple who couldn't have a child of their own. When these boys eventually meet as young men, Baldy Boy smashes into them with his car, an accident that should have killed the both of them, but it doesn't. And it's this supposed miracle that forms a connection out of curiosity, but also envy, balance, and obsession. And this is the magic of the show, their relationship. Lex Luthor loves Clark Kent because he offers him a reliable connection outside of his usual chess game business-related relationships.
We're in business to make profits, not friends!
And also gives him an opportunity to live like a real teenager, dealing with school crushes and self-esteem issues.
I wanted to take my shot with Lana, but now...
You feel like you'd be taking advantage.
What would you do?
I go for it. See, but that's what I like about you, Clark. You wouldn't.
In contrast, Clark likes Lex because of his experience. Unlike his parents, he's closer in age, so his advice is more specific. And unlike his school friends, Chloe and Pete, he's older, so he's genuinely wiser.
Clark, thanks for stopping by. It means a lot.
What are friends for?
As a result, they're also dudes living life through each other, and it's very, 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 very homoerotic.
We have the future, Clark.
Wait, what did you say? No. Dude, I think the narrator's projecting. I think the narrator's projecting here. Yes, they're living vicariously through each other because they give a shit about each other. They care about each other. They share each other's lives together. That doesn't mean they're gay for each other. That doesn't mean they want to bone each other. Like, what? I don't understand. I don't understand that logic, dude. Like, what is homoerotic? No, dude. I think you're projecting, British guy.
We have our friendship.
The third major party is Lana Lang, the girl next door, close to home, yet unreachable. In the beginning, this is literally due to a kryptonite necklace. How subtle.
So what are you?
That was so
Man
stupid
or
in season
Superman?
1.
She's the love interest of Clark Kent, and eventually Lex Luthor. Then both, and either you love her or you hate her, depending on how much.
Dude, that necklace was a pain in his side, or that necklace was, dude, a stupid necklace. Like, for the first, I can't remember when it was finally gone. I think it was season 2. It was finally out of the picture, but dude, the stupid necklace, dude. It was like, oh no, I can't get close to Lana. Not just because I have anxiety because I like her so much and I stumble over my words talking to her. Not just because of that, but because of the kryptonite on her necklace. And adds to my anxiety, makes me want to throw up. It's funny too because it's like a metaphor for how dudes already feel around the girls that they like. We might as well be Kryptonians being repelled by kryptonite because we do feel like we want to throw up when we're trying to form sentences to the girl that we like or one of the girls we like.
I can't look at her impartially because she's part of my childhood. Regardless, Clark and Lex's relationship in this season is about defying your nature by befriending what isn't you. We see this through stories of two people raised by opposing values, protecting each other from evil teenagers who can control bees. However, their secrets also plants the seed of their destruction.
Why would your father be against the plant?
We have a complicated relationship, Clark. My father wants me to believe it's built on trust, but it's not.
Oh, I didn't say it, neither did he. I want to explain why she wore kryptonite around her neck. It's not just because she is you know, she doesn't know that it's kryptonite, right? She doesn't know that she's not purposely trying to hurt her. She doesn't know that it's a kryptonite from his home planet and it's hurting him. She doesn't know that. To her, it's the same as like girls that wear like amethyst or other minerals in their jewelry. And to her it has a special meaning because it's a piece of the meteorite that killed her parents, which you'd see in the pilot if you watch Smallville. You'd see in the first episode.
Any relationship with that foundation is destined to fail. Lucky we don't have that problem.
Lucky us.
Season 2 is my favourite during the first 5 seasons of the show, mainly because everything just feels balanced. Lex and Clark are allowed to just be friends who respect each other's boundaries, and there's a really consistent theme throughout each episode that interrogates the ethics of keeping secrets, specifically through the pattern of fatherhood. Both Clark and Lex inherited distrustful instincts from Jonathan and Lionel. As a result, secrets are presented as a shield that protects family, but also destroys relationships and fosters animosity.
So he's not a part of our lives because of me?
Son, every young man wants to have a relationship with his grandpa, but in your case, it just may not be possible.
One of the coolest things about Smallville's Clark Kent is that in the same way he inherited his best qualities from Jonathan, like his altruistic values, honest work ethic, and protectiveness of others, he also inherited his worst side too. From his bad temper to his obsession with privacy, to the point that it inhibits him from understanding how much it hurts other people. Beyond blood, he is very clearly his father's son.
Believe me, son, I know all there is to know about losing your temper.
His normal life is over.
But you can't afford to do it. But once you've crossed that line, there's no going back.
Similarly, but with blood, Lex is a Machiavellian competitive murderer like his father, but he tries not to.
Trying to avoid becoming my father.
Luthers are not afraid.
We all have certain genes that no matter how much we want to change, dominate us.
But he also can't help himself. He can't help but to investigate how Clark survived the car crash, despite his protests. Therefore, what both kids share is a desire to live beyond the limitations of their fathers and become someone who doesn't just preserve their family's name but build their own legacies, which can improve those around them in the present.
School plays, camping trips, backyard activities. I wanted you to see our family the way I do.
However, truth is also an existential nightmare, not to sound too pretentious, because this is where the villain comes in. It's not Lex nor Lionel, but the invisible power of destiny.
Better if you'd not help me.
or as Clark would define it,
Destiny is another word for not having a choice.
Lex saved his father, but he'd rather be dead after becoming blind. And
Yeah, it is, what do you want to call it, destiny or determinism or what? Clark and Lex's friendship is a damn tragedy, dude. It's a tragedy because the first freaking 5 seasons, they both wanted so bad to be friends with each other. They both wanted so bad to be friends. They both considered each other each other's best friend, but it just kept coming back. It just kept coming back. The mistrust. Lex is inherently mistrustful because he grew up with Lionel Luthor as a father. And then Clark is protective because his father is telling him to protect his secret at all costs. And then Lex is like, what's wrong with me, Clark? Like, I'm trying to be your friend. Why are you constantly lying to me? And it just ultimately results in them hating each other. Even though they both wanted so badly to be each other's friends. It's just a tragedy. And the whole time, Lex was, for a time, a genuinely good dude, and Clark's father, Jonathan, never liked him, never trusted him, and ultimately all of that distrust just finally got to him. And there was an episode where like he was affected by like something, and he lost his inhibitions or whatever, and he just, when he was being the villain during the I think he was split in two or something. His good side and his bad side, he was split in two. And the bad side just straight up told Jonathan, you know what, Jonathan? You're right. I am the villain of the story. And that was such a great quote. Because right then it was like, whoa. It was like destiny of the future. Like, I am the villain of the story.
which makes Lex a worse person. Clark meets with Dr. Swan, played by Christopher Reeve, who, if you think about it, is the symbolic popular culture father for all of us. He gives Clark the right answers about his home Krypton, but this also leads to Clark learning about being sent to conquer Earth by Jor-El.
I think I was sent here to conquer. What kind of planet am I from?
Furthermore, it's also revealed that Jonathan had to make a deal with Lionel to get Clark's fake adoption papers, which resulted in Pete's farm being messed up. This is the origin for why the Kents deeply distrust and dislike the Luthors. The sins of the fathers are inherited by their children, and it's these feelings that becomes the prison bars for Clark and Lex, and it's the reason why eventually their friendship slowly disintegrates. They settle with the walls they've created for each other, and turn their mutual respect into an open secret of manipulation.
I don't even think it's from this planet.
Think aliens wrote it? I'd keep that to yourself, Lex.
The tragedy is that if either of them disobeyed their fathers and fully trusted the other, then division and eventually animosity would have never come to define them. In the end, as an act of defiance, Clark refuses to leave home for his training with his biological father and destroys the ship that brought him to Earth, but that causes Martha to lose her new pregnancy. To fight destiny is to be punished by the universe itself, while Lex's new wife backstabs him. Season 3 is the dark chapter in the high school.
Dude, he just straight up married this girl, and then they're about to go on their honeymoon, and she tries to kill him. It's just straight up. Dude, he's like, so there's so much that's happened to Lex over the years that it's like, who wouldn't turn into the bad guy? When he finally does become the bad guy, it's like, your best friend lied to you for years and years and years when all he had to do was let you in and show you that you are good enough. You are good enough. We accept you. You are good enough. You're not inherently evil, right? after being told for years and years and years that you're evil, you finally say, okay, I'm evil, right? And then all the betrayal that he's experienced, all the women backstabbing him, it's like, dude, you have to empathize with Lex.
22, because disenchanted Clark with red kryptonite expresses his pain through a leather jacket, motorcycle, and sunglasses. The Clark we once knew is gone. Until they remove the red kryptonite, of course. Anyways, this is a season about losing your innocence. Clark's secret has hurt everyone. Lana tries to move on from
Clark
him
is
and
pretty
develop trust
self-righteous
issues with
too.
everyone else. Chloe becomes an enemy for a moment, and Pete is...
I gotta say, that Clark often pissed me off with how self-righteous he was about a lot of stuff. Clark was self-righteous so freaking frequently, and like he would do some crazy shit while on red kryptonite, and then just be like, "Oh, I was on red kryptonite. It's not my fault." Like, I don't know. He's just so self-righteous, and then he holds all, like, even with Chloe, Clark would be so self-righteous and judgmental towards not only Lex but to Chloe, to Pete, like.
But that begins to make him feel deeply insecure and gives him great pain.
What are you talking about? You're good at a lot of things.
Like what?
Like basketball. You got a killer jump shot. You've beat me plenty of times.
Yeah, when you're not using your powers.
Clark and Lex is also now on unspoken thin ice, as their patience for each other's secrets has become settled disappointment.
You always tell me how you don't want to turn into your father, and I truly believe that. But the more you two go at each other, the more like him you become. And the more people get hurt.
As a result, there's a real sense of cynicism that looms over the season as unforgotten crimes are in focus. A standout bit of character work here is Lex's obsession with Julian, the little brother he would have had when he was 11 years old. But his mother knew Lionel, being the f***ing asshole he is, would pit his children against each other.
I see how you treat Alexander, chipping away at his spirit.
Because you have made him weak.
So she killed him out of postpartum depression. Lex took the blame to protect her, but eventually forgot his own innocence. Therefore, this trauma is why he loves Clark. He completes a part of him that he always felt missing, and is also deepened by the fact that he spent all of his birthdays alone, because everyone hated him. But then, Lionel taught him to lock away his doubts and feelings in a box, including his trauma.
Take all your fears and your doubts in here, and then you lock it.
Therefore, when Lex reopens it decades later, the revelation overwhelms Lionel with regret.
Computer CPU on the fritz again. Apologies. It is what it is.
Treatment of his own son, who leaves him
Things would have been so different between us.
in tears. Lex is a
And Lionel didn't know. Lionel didn't know that. So he was cold as ice to him pretty much his entire upbringing. Still tolerated him and loved him because he was literally the only thing left, right? Not only family wise, but of his legacy, because the wife is gone, the younger son is gone, so you know. But it was cold as ice to him. And when he finally found out what really happened, he was like, oh shit, I was cold as ice to him all these years for nothing. And really, he was just covering for his mother. Because Lex was an idiot. I don't know. I don't know why I said that. Oh, I know why I said that. Because really, why would you cover for her, dude? She's a psycho. She's a psycho. I don't care how business-minded or frickin' competitively obsessed with historical figures of legacy like Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan or Napoleon Bonaparte or whoever else he would want his sons to aspire to. You don't do that. She's a psycho. Why would he cover for her? Like, that's why I'm saying Lex is an idiot for being a freaking white knight. And me, I I saw what it was, and I was like, oh, I'm siding with my dad. My mom's crazy. But you know, Lex decided to be a white knight, and because I don't know.
Repression and unwarranted resentment. In contrast, when Clark remembers his mother Lara for the first time, he discovers his biological parents weren't monsters but loved him.
Her only fear was that no one would love me.
Destiny is pretty f***ing unfair. So in the end, Lana leaves for Paris, Lex testifies against his father, and Pete leaves Smallville, which gives a pretty tangible example to why Clark's secret isn't a gift, but a burden.
There's a lot of things that I can handle, but I could never live with myself if I betrayed you.
While Clark leaves Lex after Lionel gives him the key to his secret room that is all about him. Everyone was so late acting for those they love that everyone becomes something else now. This season started out pretty inconsistent, I thought, but it ends very, very strongly because it embraces a more serialized structure as opposed to just the freak of the week deal. Season 4 opens 3 months later and reintroduces everything through Lois Lane, who finds Clark nude in the cornfields. By the way, I love Margot Kidder, Bitsy Tulik, and obviously Amy Adams. But Erica Durance is my favorite Lois Lane by a landslide, largely because of one simple factor. She's fucking hysterical. Smallville Lois Lane is a party-driven, spunky, cynical, tough, pop culture referencing, energetic, facetious, rude, bossy, and unstoppable being who represents the sexual maturity that Clark isn't ready for, because he's still in his first love phase. Therefore, right now, he's just irritated.
Lois, we want you to know that you are welcome back here anytime.
Actually,
We'll all miss you, Lois.
However, within that irritation is an attraction, because they're so comfortable with each other. Anyways, season 4 is one of reflection, to finally chase down lost opportunities and connect with who you really are. For Lex, this comes in his growing attraction towards Lana, because he's impressed by her ability to give life to something that seemed dead, the cafe talent. So their love is one of mentorship, redemption, inspiration, and also shared disenchantment from Clark's fucking secrets. A purity that initially draws greatness from the both of them. Lex is also dying from poison and must have his blood purified regularly, which is never mentioned ever again.
Dude, for the first 7 seasons, Clark is like Lana, 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 Lana. It was so annoying. Like, I mean, I'm sure we've all annoyed people about one particular girl. I'm sure we all have in our lives annoyed the shit out of people because we couldn't shut up about one specific girl. But literally for the first 7 years of the show, Clark every season was all about Lana, 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 Lana. And then finally he got over it and started seeing other chicks.
To play American football, which is a real welcome change, so he's not just pining for Lana all the time. Margot Kidder also arrives to talk to Martha Kent for a second, and this is totally...
Yeah, that's what he finally got over. That's what he finally got over Lana, was he went to college and started using his superpowers to play professional football. Or, well, if you consider college football professional football, I think it's considered professional football. But anyways, he goes to play college football using his superpowers in Metropolis, and that's when he finally stops pining for Lana.
Superman fan, because it's friggin' Christopher Reeve era Lana and Lois talking. Unfortunately, Lex and Clark enters shaky grounds, which on one hand feels really irritating. The show did a great job presenting their decline, but it hadn't reached to this level of coldness.
I really need to get to helping my parents. Good luck, Lex.
Especially since Clark has been exploiting Lex's ignorance and has been using him more as a resource than a friend for multiple seasons now. So from just a few mistakes...
Exactly. I mean, that's another thing, that how can you blame Lex for finally going to the dark side when for years farm boy Clark was just using Lex for the things that he could get in, the favors that his money and power could get him. Constantly asking Lex for favors left and right. Lex, will you do this for hey Lex, can you set this up and blah blah blah, like, and he's like every single time he's like, sure Clark, I'll do that for you. I'll use my money and my power to do that for you.
And if you squint, it kind of works, because Lex is very desensitized from Clark's love, and often has to lie to get what he wants, because everyone keeps denying him the truth. And you could also say Clark is becoming more like Jonathan, a dude with no fucking patience. Furthermore, secrets are not boundaries like in the previous seasons, but is a toxic parasite that tears away relationships in fatalistic ways. Clark's mistrust of Alicia, a former bad guy, gets her killed. Therefore, he learns that he has a responsibility to let the world know of his powers eventually, so everyone wouldn't be so quick to judge others that are different. He also almost murders her killer, while Chloe discovers Clark's powers and tears down her wall of the weird. This is the end of school.
I want you to know that I'm here for you.
Clark realizes he can't play American football and go to university with a scholarship because he'll have to lie on every single test. And eventually, he can also fall in love with his own powers selfishly. This is a first step of tremendous change for him.
Decision you made,
And
son,
he quits.
shows integrity well
He quits
beyond
college
your years.
football.
The last episode is his
Which
graduation,
was
where a new
the right
meteor
thing to
shower
do.
interrupts the ceremony, and
Because it
Clark
was
must
cheating.
get all the artifacts to stop it. Obviously he does. Jonathan makes an amazing speech about raising his son for this very specific moment, telling him to make them proud.
All the years that your mother and I spent raising you from a wide-eyed toddler running around on this farm to the man who is standing in front of me right now was for this moment.
And we end on Clark creating the Fortress of Solitude.
And my computer's shitting the bed again.
Lana Lang and Jensen Ackles were dating. Bailey leaves, goes nuts, and gets hit by a meteor. So, great digression.
And this
very
was before
necessary.
Supernatural.
Great payoff, too. Season 5, if you summarize it, is effectively about
That
one
was
word.
deemed
Regret.
before Supernatural.
Regret as the last gasp of an old life. It opens with the new Fortress of Solitude as Jor-El declares,
One journey is ended, a new journey is
We're
about to
only
begin.
halfway
which
through
then leads to the new
Smallville.
opening sequence with the shattering glass effect as opposed to the really weird looking early 2000s giant head plus green screen look. I cannot stress how much I love the new intro. It's like my fucking childhood in 60 seconds. Lex wants to reset Clark's friendship.
I hope we can rebuild more than just the town. So do I.
So for the third time we're doing this again, and I wish they could have flipped the dialogue for once. Regardless, it doesn't work, and Clark has no time for their fucking game of secrets.
Were you in the cave when the meteors hit?
No.
But in one of the best episodes ever, Lexmas, Lex Luthor gets shot. He wakes up in a dream where all he wanted is materialized. Married with kids with Lana, he's left his money, he helped Chloe with her book, and she got together with Clark Kent. So in his dreams, deep down inside, Lex wishes for the best for his friends. While in real
And he
life,
just wants a
Clark
family
spends
for
time with a
himself.
disenchanted Santa Claus. It's like the most Christmassy fucking episode ever. A boy who believes as much as Santa spends time with him, and we have a reverse It's a Wonderful Life going on. Lex also, more importantly, wishes he was treated like a son by Jonathan and is given a humanitarian award.
I couldn't be prouder of you if you were my own son.
This is what happens if he followed his heart, not ambition. To be a husband, brother, and even gain the respect of a better father. But destiny denies this. As Lana begins to die from childbirth, Lex comes begging to Lionel to get a specialist to help him. But due to a resentful Lionel who's angry over Lex losing the Senate, because during the whole season he's running for it against Jonathan Kent, and that was some sort of main conflict in the background, he's rejected. However, in reality, Lionel actually didn't want him to win. But Lex's fear and hatred poison his impression of him, so as Lex watches Lana die, he reawakens with his love as a cold ambition.
And you know what the secret to living happily ever after is? Power. Money. See, once you have those two things, you can secure everything else.
His heart shrinks a few sizes. Also, Santa Claus might be real. Throughout this season, Clark is regularly procrastinating his destiny. He was able to temporarily worm his way into losing his powers by going back against his word for Jor-El, so he can be finally happy with Lana, but it doesn't really hit him until episode 100, Reckoning. Clark finally reveals the truth to Lana and proposes to her.
I guess it's just hard looking over at your son and realizing you're talking to a man. A man who doesn't need his father's advice anymore.
Jonathan is about to win the Senate, while Lex is heartbroken. He saw winning the Senate as a chance to define himself finally outside of his father. So he gets drunk and chases Lana, causing a car accident. causing her death. Clark decides to save her using a time-traveling crystal.
And this was a mistake.
Therefore, this
You should have
time
never
he
done
doesn't tell her
this.
the truth, which alienates her so much that she puts the relationship on hold. History then repeats itself, but this time Lana and Lex are there to comfort each other. While during Jonathan's victory, Lionel appears before him as his.
If he would never turned back time, if he never would have went to the Fortress of Solitude and turned back time and undid that, he would still have his father. He should have just let it be. Let it be, dude. Don't freaking turn back time. Oh no, but Lana. It really is one chick worth giving up your dad over? You freaking idiot.
Jonathan beats the shit out of him, but as a result, his heart finally gives out. Destiny demands tragedy in Clark's life. Therefore, during the funeral, as everyone leaves, Clark stays. The boy had let go of his childhood dream, his childhood love, and now his father.
You traded one life for
He's
another.
a man now. Then there's kind of a goofy story arc going on in the background with Zod possessing Lex's body. It's an amazing performance, by the way. Michael Rosenbaum is the best actor, I think, in the show, and easily the best Lex Luthor in general. In this universe, Zod destroyed Krypton, and as the world riots, as electricity goes out, Chloe and Lionel are attacked. Zod, Lex makes out with Lana as Clark is trapped in the Phantom Zone. It's a very scary, crazy cliffhanger that's resolved very quickly in the opening of the next season, and that's just kind of Smallville. On a big picture storytelling level, the first half of Smallville is a tragedy about sons being punished by destiny because they must become like their fathers. But they also become great men as they develop the strength to discover and enforce their own convictions confidently. The show hasn't aged perfectly, it's rough in a lot of places. Upon revisiting it, it's like the most early 2000s show ever. You've got people that are clearly in their mid to late 20s playing 16-year-olds, constant licensed rock music that are nowadays turned into memes or unironically played in the background. I can't stress how fucking charming this show is. But also, unironically, there's a richness to it, to its characters, and to the genuine melancholic tone to its journey. More than being a story about Superman and Lex Luthor, it's about brothers who don't know their futures, but a shadow looms over them regardless. This shadow becomes all the more prominent in the second half of the show. To be continued.
Dude, and he only covered. It's crazy how long Smallville is. He only covered the first 5 seasons. There's a whole nother 5 seasons. He didn't even cover the stuff that happens in seasons 6 to 10. In 6 to 10. That was just season 1 through 5. And season 6 to 10. There's so much more. Dude, Smallville is such a great show, dude. If you've never seen Smallville, I highly recommend you start on it right now. You have 10 seasons. You have 10 years of episodes to watch. And speaking of long shows to watch, if you saw Jensen Ackles in that show, Smallville's what got Jensen Ackles his jobs at the CW, and then the CW, or not the CW, it was Warner Brothers at the time, and during the show it changed into the CW, but after his time on Smallville, because they make all the Warner Brothers at the time when it started, but then it changed to the CW, and the same place, they all make those shows in Vancouver, Canada. So in Vancouver, Canada, all of the different shows, not just Smallville, but all of the different shows are up there, produced nearby to each other. And so while he was up there, he scored the show on Supernatural. And then right after his character died off in season 5 of, no, not season 5. Yes, season 5. Yeah. It was season 5. No, I'm trying to remember. Was it season 4? Oh, it was season 4. Okay, yeah, it was season 4 of Smallville. Right after Jensen Ackles' character in Smallville died at the end of season 4, then it was season 4. I don't remember my timeline. Yeah, it was. And my timeline. I hate not remembering the timeline. But yeah, anyways, he died. His character died off, and then, boom, the next start of the next television season. First season 1 of Supernatural. Bam. Supernatural went on for 14 freaking years, dude. 14 seasons. That's crazy. And my dad loved Supernatural. He hated Smallville, but he loved Supernatural. At least until they started committing blasphemy with all the angels and heaven stuff. Once they started committing blasphemy with the evil angels and God being having abandoned us, and he's like, oh, he didn't care anymore. He's like, I don't care. So season 4 of Supernatural, he bailed. He didn't even make it to the climax of season 5 of the whole Michael versus Lucifer fight. He didn't even make it to that greatness. But yeah, anyways, I appreciate you guys for watching this really long video. And please like and subscribe and all that. I hate asking for it, but you have to do it because people forget, and they won't do it unless you ask them to it. Also, please follow me on Twitch, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.